Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show. And my goal in this program is to help you feel comfortable with your palate. It's all about your palate, not mine, not Robert Parker's, not all those guys. It's about your palate, what you like. And today, I'm very happy to have Kyra Baerlocher. She owns Kyra Winery with her husband. And I'm happy to have you here. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
She came clear over from Moses Lake. That's where your winery is.
The winery's in Moses Lake. Yes.
How many wineries are in Moses Lake?
3. I'm one of 3.
So you're kind of a tourist attraction there.
Yes, I have a tasting room that's open for special events, and the other people along the lake are open a little bit more often, and one is so small that they're only around for civic events. So
okay,
we're a growing community.
That's cool. What are the other 2 wineries in Moses Lake?
Napel Cellars and Camas Cove.
Okay, never heard of either one of those. You're the only one I've heard of. Now, Kyra made it on my 3 of her wines made it on my top 40 under $20 in 2013. The Chenin Blanc, the Pinot Gris, and the Dolcetto. We're going to try the Chenin, the 2013 today, and the Dolcetto this was the same vintage that I put on my top 40 under $20. So that's impressive to have 3 of the same wine. I think you're the only one that had 3 wines on my list.
It was very nice.
Which is crazy. And that was while I was sitting in my office, which is where I'm the most critical, by the way, is when I'm sitting in that little cubby hole. The chicken coop, I call it. So, Kyra, just tell the folks a little bit about how'd you get involved in wine, what's your background, what you're hoping to do in the future.
All right.
Tell them away.
We started out with apple orchards that we converted to vineyards in 1999. My husband and I had always wanted to do a business together, and it wasn't until we had the vineyards that we found the business. I worked in the medical field. I have a degree in bacteriology, and he'd always been on the finance end of things. So once we made a little wine on the side while our vineyards were maturing, we go, this is it. This is what we could do together. And so far we've really enjoyed it. We had our first commercial releases in 2006. We moved to the building that we're in now in 2007. And mainly we're still having a lot of fun, so that's all that counts. Okay, so that's probably a good background. I notice a lot of engineers get involved in winemaking. Why do you think that is? I think to some it's the science involved. There's a lot of logistics in winemaking that people kind of discount. I mean, you can't crush a ton of grapes if you don't have the proper amount of barrels or tank space or the right size pump. So I think that is something that draws engineers.
Okay.
I'm more interested in the chemistry part of it. I like going out in the vineyards, tasting the grapes, and then just seeing kind of that mystery unfold over time. It's very fascinating.
Yes. Now, I know there's different theories on the bricks that you get in wine, and there's a lot of people. Parker just went on a huge rant. By the way, Matthew from Cordon is here. Come over here, Matthew. Come over here. Matthew's yes. Anyway, say hi, Matthew. Matthew's our audience today. Cordon actually reps the Kyra Wines, the distribution of them. So
back to my audience position.
It's always nice to have an audience. You're actually talking to somebody instead of just this little camera on there. Right? So, where are you feeling on? Where do you like to hit your bricks, or that's the actual sugar level that the grapes reach before you actually harvest? What are you looking for?
Well, this is where it's very nice to have your own vineyards.
Mm-hmm.
Even the people that I contract with, they're very understanding. Usually people have a bricks level, like a 22, 23 that they're looking at, but it's important to get out there and taste the grapes because it will stay at a certain bricks level, but the flavors will change. And so you kind of have to judge when you think it's right for you. And once again, we're looking at logistics. You can't bring in grapes if you don't have a place to put them. So there's a lot of coordination with your vineyards and your crew. So
okay. How many cases a year do you, what's your production level right
We're
now?
about 2,000 cases.
2,000, so that's fairly small.
That's small. We have 175 acres of vineyard, so I just take a little bit of that.
Okay, and you sell the rest?
The rest goes to other wineries.
Yeah. So who do you contract with on your fruit?
My husband takes care of that end of it,
Okay.
so I don't always know.
You don't always know. Okay, that's fair.
I know where my rows are and what I want done with my rows,
Okay.
and they're hand harvested, and I just try to focus on that.
Okay. Hand harvested. What kind of a trellis system do you prefer?
It's a straight cordon split.
Okay.
So yeah.
It gives you lots of coverage from the sun. Is it a fairly warm? What area are your vineyards in?
We're on the Wallach Slope.
Okay.
And we have two different sites. One is a little bit cooler than the other, just because there tends to be over the Saddle Mountains, kind of a cool breeze that blows down across there. That's Pheasant Vineyard, and Purple Sage Vineyard is a little more to the east
Okay.
of the slope, and it tends to have an eastern slope. So it is by far my favorite site, just because of the conditions there. It seems very remote, even though there's other things around. And it's that eastern slope tends to get that morning sun, and yet we avoid a lot of that westerly wind in the evening. So
Okay.
I really like that side.
What kind of soil is
All
up
the
there?
slope is a geological formation called a mega-alluvial fan. That is what separates Wallach Slope from the rest of the Columbia Valley.
Okay.
So you tend to think of it as a giant sandbar, because that's really what it is. So the soils are very sandy, very porous, which are very nice for vineyards, because you don't have any of your grape plants basically sitting in water. You like to stress them a little bit.
Okay.
And you like to be able to control the water. So that's a big advantage.
Yeah. And you do drip irrigation?
Drip irrigation.
Probably very little when you.
It's a seasonal thing. We have, like a lot of other large operations, water probes, so we get water reports on a continuous basis, and we can adjust based on the weather, the maturity of the grapes. I mean, we pick and choose when is the best time to put on water. This is a good time of year because the irrigation water has not started flowing yet, so the grapes are just going to be coming out of dormancy when the water is available, and they'll be thirsty then, so we'll want to put on good water again.
Okay. How do you feel about the 2013 vintage?
I did like the 13. I like the 12 a lot better. It was a more even climate throughout, but the 13 was also rival to that.
Okay. And then 11 was kind of a tough. Did
11
you lose
was
any
very
fruit
difficult.
in November of 10?
I did lose some, but not enough to be a huge impact. But it was just a challenge harvesting, because anytime you have to wake up and check, what's the weather today? Am I picking? Then, it's stressful.
Yeah. By the way, in the 2011 vintage, in November of 2010, they had a really big frost that killed a lot of the vines. In fact, Mike Andrews up in Coyote Canyon, he lost practically all his fruit.
Oh, wow.
He just got blasted by the frost. And so why is November a bad time to have frost? I mean, why does that harm the plants?
From the time that the grapes are harvested, there's just a short period of time before the vine goes into a dormancy. And you actually want to really baby it then, because it already has the fruit buds on for the next year.
Okay.
So if they have not gone completely into dormancy, then you have harmed your fruit for the next year.
Okay, gotcha. I never really asked that question. It's always been, why November? Because it seems like they'd already be dormant in November, but
not so, no.
Not so.
Because a lot of times people are still picking into November, and
gotcha.
the plant needs some time to totally shut down.
So some guys probably even got their fruit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your actual fruit you harvested, yeah.
Yeah.
That particular year, 2011, there was also an adverse event in September, so that stopped a lot of maturity for fruit. And people could let it hang longer, but it didn't really mature to the level it had in previous years.
Okay. Yeah, it's amazing to me. Of course, Washington is very consistent normally.
Yes, that's one of the amazing things. I mean,
Yeah.
we can judge There's kind of a saying that your fruit should be pea size at the 4th of July, you know, kind of
Pea size at the 4th of July. I like that.
sort of there's the corn, the knee high. So now you have grape berries pea size, and that generally tends to be true. We look for veraison around certain dates, first part of August, middle of August.
Okay.
So it's fairly consistent with that.
Gotcha. Well, let's taste. I'm really excited about this. And I'm going to zoom this in, and Matthew, you tell me when I get it. So this is Kyra 2013 Chenin Blanc, Columbia Valley appellation. So where do you, let's see. Is that good? Okay. Now tell me when I get all the way back, Matthew. Good? Good. Okay. There we go. So let me give you a little rinse.
Good idea. Well, actually, 2013 is a little bit of a departure from what I've done in the past. Primarily, my grapes have come from Vineyard near Prosser, about 5 miles north of there, Harold Pleasant Vineyard. But this year, I decided that I should look for some other sites. I kind of wanted to expand the portfolio a little bit. And I amazingly just stumbled onto a site that's only about 20 miles from me at Cave B Estate.
Oh, really?
So this is a blend of Harold Pleasant Fruit near Prosser and Cave B Estate in the Ancient Lakes AVA.
Wow.
So it is...
A lot of stone fruit on the nose. And apples. Go figure. Seems like so many Washington whites. You can say apple every time, and you're probably right, even before you smell it.
I know, it's funny, isn't it?
But you know, I mean, the apple orchards must affect, in some degree, the smells that you get off of wine.
It seems like it would be.
And I get coconut, which is so, you know, like coconut skin.
Harold's site usually tends to show a lot of tropical fruit. And amazingly, one of the reasons for blending the two vineyards is they're both near the same age. They're both about 30 years old. And so I have looked at sites with younger fruit before. That changes up the whole fruit profile in the end. So I felt good about blending these two vineyards.
Cool. I love the nose on this. It's very intense, which is really cool. When I went to the Somm class, that's always what they based intensity off of the nose. You know, obviously if you get a huge amount of aromatics, the wine is more than likely going to be intense. I mean, it can't. They're hand in hand, obviously. I mean, it's, you know, if it's challenged on the nose, you have to wait for the palate to see what the intensity is.
This is along the same lines of the residual sugar as we've done in the past as well. It's about 1.5.
Yeah, so it's on the drier side.
Mm-hmm.
Love the nose on this. It even has that little woolly, which it's, you know, that's hard to attain if you're not over in Vouvray. You know, of course, they get that really woolly, funky. There's no funk on this one. And did you think it was interesting that Paul Greggett decided to do like 3 Chenin Blancs?
It is interesting, and I've only had an opportunity to taste 2 of them, so I'm looking forward to trying that third one. But it is a very versatile grape, and different parts of the profile show up at different sugar levels. For us, we're trying to do a very food-friendly, approachable style. So we want a little sugar because we want to have that spicy Thai, Jamaican kind of food go with it. And at the same time, we want people to be able to sit on their patio and enjoy it.
A little bit of a cocktail wine too.
Exactly. So if there's too much sugar, you can't really do that.
Yes. No, this is the nose on this is incredible. I can hardly wait to taste it. Didn't let me down. That's fantastic. I'm not sure if I might like that one better than the 12, and I love the 12. Good acid.
It is good acid. I'm really pleased with that. But it is...
Get a little drip right there.
Oh, thank you.
That's all right. That's okay. I do it all the time. Sometimes I spit in the bucket and it splashes up in my face. Then I have to wipe my glasses down. I got spots in my eyes. No, the acidity on this is incredible. It's really bracing.
So obviously very food friendly, definitely patio friendly, and that's really what we're looking for.
Well, if you guys run out of 12, like if we sell a ton of this tonight, I have no problem with the 13.
Good.
Yeah, a lot of tropical fruits on the palate. I get a lot of apple, peaches. I even get there's a little tangerine element coming through on it, and it almost feels like it's got a slate component. I don't know. It's hard to define, but there's something there that kind of hangs around.
Just that little bit of minerality. I think that comes from that Ancient Lakes area because there's so much basalt in that vicinity. Sometimes when we bottle, you can really create an aroma in the winery, and this is like a orange creamsicle. That's what it was smelling like when we were bottling, and it's people are going, wow, I can hardly wait to have some of this.
Yeah, it's very intense on the palate, but very fresh at the same time. And it has that minerality. It's not like a crushed rock or anything. It's almost like to me, like a chalkboard slate sort of thing going on. It just kind of hangs in there. Great job, Kyra.
Thank you.
I always hate dumping out wine this good. But hey, it's here. After the show, might have to have a glass of that. Give me a rinse here. So I'm curious, why Dolcetto? I mean, it's not one of those grapes that you see a lot of.
No, it isn't. At the time we were planting purple sage, we had a vineyard manager who was really into Italian wines.
Gotcha.
And he said, I've been able to access some vines out of California. I think you'll really like it. What if we plant an acre of it? And we said, oh, okay, we'll try it. Because I was a big Sangiovese fan and still am. And so I go, okay, well, let's see what it'll do. And so, yes, we only have 1 acre, but it is the most fun grape. It doesn't look like anything else in the vineyard. The clusters are really long. It's very gangly. It tends to put on a ton of fruit. I mean, you'll have this little spindly cordon, and it'll have like 8 clusters on it. So it is a challenge in that way because we don't want 8 clusters per spindly vine. But it has been very fun, and it's been fun to learn more about Dolcetto. Our first vintage of it was in 2007, so we're kind of getting to understand the grape a little bit more, and getting it from the same row in the same vineyard year after year. We really see it mature each year, despite weather events.
Yeah, so they do Dolcetto. So I'm going to just show that this is 2010 Kyra Dolcetto, Wahluke Slope. Purple Sage Vineyard. You said that's your favorite vineyard? Mm-hmm. Tell me when I get it. Good? All right. Now we'll go back. Everybody see that? Okay. It's nice having a director back there. I like that.
We didn't know.
So Dolcetto is out of Piedmont. That's where they do most of the Dolcetto. Even from Italy, you don't see a lot of it in a grocery store. Dolcetto.
No, you don't. It's from that area where Nebbiolo, Barbera, the big rock stars.
Sure.
But this would be the wine that you're in northern Italy sitting in a cafe that they would unceremoniously plonk on your table, not even in a wine glass. So it has little regard, but we're trying to follow the Italian style. It's aged only on neutral oak. We bottle it young, so it only is like 9 to 10 months aging. And so it sticks with that bright freshness. It follows what we want out of our wines in that food friendliness because that acidity and freshness show up and makes it go with almost anything.
Yeah, I mean the nose on this there's a lot of what you'd expect from northern Italy. There's a lot of red flowers on this.
Kind of the whole
real
violet,
earthy kind of
blueberry.
Yeah.
Tend to go towards that area.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of blue fruit and red flowers and blue fruit.
How could you go wrong?
There's even an herbal component coming through. And there's like this, almost like a minerality, it doesn't go to rust, but it has that kind of rusty edge to it on the nose.
It definitely seems old world.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing that takes away from it is that it's more on the blueberry red flower side than it is on the rust side. Nebbiolo is so notorious for smelling like a rusty fender somewhere, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see what we get. Okay, if you guys haven't tried Dolcetto yet, you gotta hit this one. I mean, it's a beauty.
Thank you.
I mean, the acid just pops the blueberries in the mouth, and you know, there's not a lot of minerality on the palate. I mean, it's there, but it's not the predominant part of it. Man, that blueberry, I get a little bit of anise, just a touch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's powerful, but at the same time, soft, you know, which is really interesting. There's no way in the world this is a fruit bomb.
Well, it's a lot of times when you tell people it's on neutral oak, they think, oh, it's going to be light and watery. It's not that at all, because there's a lot of tannin. It comes from the skins and the seeds. It really gives it a strong backbone. Yes, it's not a heavy wine, but it is definitely structured.
Oh yeah, it's got a lot of character. Yeah, heavy, but it's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger with in a ballerina dress. You know?
That's a good picture.
I mean, it's, you know what I'm saying is it's delicate, but at the same time powerful. That's how hard to achieve.
Thank you.
I know why I put this in my top 40. I don't drink it all the time, so you forget sometimes. Wow, this is incredible. And I even get a little. It seems like there's a little like black raspberry element that comes through on the back end, and a lot of herbs. I'm terrible at herbs. Like, is it thyme? Is it rosemary? Is it, you know? I have to improve, obviously, but there is some herbal component that's back there.
It does show up.
A dried herb, not a fresh.
Right, and dried. Mm-hmm. Kind of powdery.
Mm-hmm. So we were talking before the show, and we'll conclude on this note. We were talking about Gallo bought Columbia Winery in Washington State, and there's a whole bunch of opinions about what that will mean for Washington. And we talked a little bit about this before the program, so I want Kyra, she had a really excellent take on what that means for Washington State. Maybe you could share that with them.
Well, it's yet to be determined really what the effect Gallo will have on individual wineries or growers. But I more look at it as a sign of the growth of the industry. We've been growing grapes now in Washington State for 30, 35 years, and we're just now really getting on the map, even on the international map. So to have someone as large as Gallo with the reputation, good or bad, that they have, it's a sign that our industry is really growing and is really catching the news of the world. And I think there's concern in California about climate change, and so Washington seems like a logical choice. And Gallo is a vertically integrated company, so it depends on what else they bring to our state. Are they going to be able to bring, their glass manufacturing, their cork manufacturing? How far will it really go? And that's yet to be determined, because they've really just stuck their toe in.
Yeah, and they had that one plot of land they were selling up on Red Mountain, and I understand that Duckhorn was deeply involved in trying to get their part of that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't win the bid.
No, they did not.
Okay, but it just goes to show you that, like she said, and this was a nice take, one I hadn't thought about, is the reputation of Washington and Washington fruit. Randall Graham saw it a long time ago with the Pacific Rim Project, mm-hmm. and the Riesling, because Riesling is fantastic. Do you do a Riesling?
I do not do a Riesling.
Okay. I didn't think so, but I thought, am I missing that in somewhere along the line?
It's in the Opal.
Where'd you get your Riesling from?
For the Opal, it came from Cave B.
Cave B?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the most famous Riesling sites, at least in my opinion, is Evergreen
Vineyard.
Mm-hmm. Milbrandt's on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's some great Riesling comes out of there. Have you ever thought about doing it in the future?
It's hard to expand too much to too many varietals, so I like the Chenin Blanc. It fits the bill for me in where that Riesling fits in a food profile. So.
Okay, yeah. You have no reason to do Riesling,
mm-hmm.
but just curious, some of these guys do so many varietals, it's like crazy, like Rob Griffin, not Rob Griffin, how come I can't think of his name all of a sudden, from Mount Baker Vineyards, Randy Finley. He must do 15 different types of wine.
It's a lot of work.
But I think he's a little eccentric, so you heard me, Randy. You know how I feel. Well, Kyra, thanks for coming on the program. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, if you're in a grocery store and they don't carry Kyra Wines, you talk to their wine guy and say, I want to try Kyra Chenin Blanc or Kyra Dolcetto or Sangiovese or Chardonnay or Merlot. She makes you make one of the best Merlots that I've tasted.
Oh, terrific. Oh, thank you.
I love the Merlot. So, excellent wines. Give them a try. Thank you, Kyra. And here's to keeping the snob out of wine. Cheers.